You're just relaxing
I'm just
after work,
relaxing,
right?
right?
Yeah.
How many bottles of wine are you having a year? You're literally poisoning yourself.
You're making me worried.
Oh.
Glasses of wine every single day.
That was a long time ago.
I'm doing
Not
it
there
today.
anymore.
No, he's doing it today.
He's doing it now.
In
You
my life.
are? Oh,
Drinking
Christian.
2 glasses of
You got to get you some non-alcoholic wine.
I tried. Oh, disaster.
Like, that guy's doing something
We
that
just
I
had
want
Rob on like a few days ago.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Super, super cool guy.
This is not just in dentistry. This is in life.
Yeah.
The reason why I had stress was expectations, communication, and boundaries.
That's why people say that it's easier to be single, and some people don't want to face the
Of
challenge.
course, it is easier.
It is easier.
It's easier because you don't need to improve yourself.
Exactly.
You can't bullshit yourself.
A lot of people do, though.
A lot of people do.
And they do. And have I bullshitted myself? A lot.
Christian, I see you've been chomping at the bit to say something.
No. I'm very bad at this. Is something that my father was always horrible at it. Drive my mother crazy. Always saying yes to everything.
You got a crooked smile. Well, that don't bother me much. You double over, working double time. You double tough. I'll just shine it up until the sun hit like a glare. I gotta dare. Get the f*** up out the chair.
Dr. Curry Levitt is a Las Vegas periodontist who specializes in cosmetic dental surgery, dental implants, and periodontal disease. Dr. Curry stays up to date on innovative, minimally invasive treatment technologies to enhance patient care, and he lectures at his Red Rock Institute and countless symposiums and congresses around the world. In this episode, we cover how to balance your work and personal life by setting clear priorities, talking openly with those around you, and planning your time carefully. How facing early challenges like money troubles or personal hardships helps you become stronger and a better leader in the long run. How to keep improving yourself by asking for feedback from colleagues and family and using it to grow and maintain a thriving practice. Tune in today to learn how you can take your practice to the next level while maintaining and staying healthy and happy in the process.
Welcome back to The Happy Dentist. Today, we are very excited to have Dr. Curry Levitt on the show, periodontist and lecturer from Las Vegas. Kyle, do you want to go ahead and give a little bit more of an in-depth intro?
Yeah, so Curry has become a good friend of mine over the last few years. We knew each other on Instagram, but really got to know him when he took my Lightside course. So we were meeting every week. This was, I think, around the pandemic, and really got to know him. He ended up bringing me out speaking for his course or for his study club. And he's just one of those guys that you like immediately. And one of the things I love about Curry is that he's a great specialist. He is a great lecturer, but most of all, he's a family man. Like, above everything, he's a family man. I think when people look up to him, I hope that they look up to him because of who he is and not of what he does. So yeah, just an all-around great person that I think we can learn a lot from today. So Curry, welcome.
Tired of bouncing between ClinChecks, refinements, and Invisalign bills? Serving patients is what you do best. Leave the back and forth to us. With TwoFront, you get to unwind, fully automate your Invisalign practice, and watch your patients receive the highest level of care without losing any control. From closing your patients to designing ClinChecks, managing insurance and compliance, your TwoFront team does it all. Think of it as a splash of simplicity. Use one simple platform to have full visibility of your patients in treatment. Dentists and orthodontists across 150 practices have jumped in, seeing their Invisalign production soar without adding any extra chair time. TwoFront members have seen a 350% increase in production, adding over $100,000 in profit to their bottom line. Whether you're on the court or in the office, TwoFront helps you ace your goals. See how TwoFront can transform your practice. Visit mytwofront.com/Ingrid to book your demo and dive in today.
Thank you for having me on. That's the theme of being a light-sider. Yeah. Being somebody you want to be and not what you do during the day.
That's right. Yeah, and what I see, what's so interesting is people that go through a mental health journey or a personal growth journey, that it's kind of like 12 steps for alcoholism is the last step is helping someone else. And I've seen that so often. And I see that with you too, that you are sharing your own story to help others. So very, very cool to see that.
Absolutely. It's, to come full circle. I mean, it's like we talked about it a little bit earlier, in terms of starting a practice from scratch or coming out of residency, starting a practice and evolving, that whole situation and then having life events, thrown in the middle of that and trying to, be better for yourself, be better for your family, better for your patients. It takes a ton of work. There's a lot of work and there's a lot of people that I've looked up to, throughout the years and in terms of getting to the point where I feel like I am now. And obviously it's still a lot of work. But, and Ingrid, you talked about being vulnerable and, kind of putting yourself out there is that I've had to seek out a lot of, professional people in my life, to get to, obviously we talked about, being a light sider with Kyle and individual therapy and couples therapy and practice management, coaching and all this stuff. And then seeing, Christian on the big stage and being inspired and going, okay, really, what can I do to take now that and then bring it back and then actually, empower it within my life and things like that. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of courage, but without the people around me, you're nothing. So
I love what you just said right there. And I think that I want to expand on that is that people may look at you and say, wow, he's such a successful business owner. He's such a successful specialist. But what's interesting is you spent so much time doing non-clinical things to make you quote unquote successful. Like you just talked about therapy, couples therapy. I mean, something that I think a lot of people don't talk about is if you have stress at home, it's very challenging to come into your practice and work and just forget about all that.
Oh, it's impossible.
It's really cool that you said that. I also would maybe like for you to expand on something we talked about before we started recording was you said that around 7 to 8 years of having your practice was when you finally felt like things are rolling and just happening. And that's very important for all the younger doctors listening today. It's not like within 6 months or even 2 or 3 years, you should expect to have everything perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like I mentioned before, I started my practice from scratch and doing that, as honestly, never owning a business and never owning not only just a business in general, but a dental specialist business, and marketing and learning, the ropes in terms of providing the care that you wanted for your patients and how to talk to patients and how to be a team member and how to be a boss and how to be, a leader. It took so much time. And I mentioned before is like, I felt like I was swimming, upstream 90% of the time, and then you swim downstream and get a little relief. And then as the years went, it felt like as I implemented systems and really found out truly, genuinely who I was, not necessarily personally, I had a good idea of obviously of who I was, growing up and doing that, but being who I was as a periodontist, being who I was as a leader, I had to develop that and I had to find it. And sometimes it's easier said than done, with some individuals they're these charismatic people that just feel like I look at them and like, man, they have so much self-awareness of who they are. I'm like, they have it so easy. It wasn't easy for me to do that. It wasn't easy for me to figure out who I was. And it was with a lot of help, it's a lot of help of reaching out and looking up to others and saying, oh man, like Dr. Ritter in Florida, like that guy's doing something that
I just had Rob on like a few days ago.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Super, super cool guy. Somebody I look up to very much, it's just a genius really. And then to like say, oh, I want to implement what he's doing in that instance. Or it was so funny. I went into like a CBG, the old CBGB's in New York. It's now a John Barbados store. I walked into this store and I was like automatically inspired to go, I want my practice to feel like this when I walk in, like this nostalgic, kind of old, like friendly, but like edgy, because that's how I felt inside. And I was like, man, I want to exemplify this, and I think there's genuine nature is when you find out what this genuine person of who you are, and you implement your practice to be the same, and it kind of carries the same characteristics that you have. Patients then walk in and go, all right, this place is different. There's something different about him that is way different than the GP that sent me over and way different than the guys I've been to in the past. Why is this so different? Like, what's going on? Well, it took a lot of work to finally get to the point. We went through a big overhaul in my practice in about 2018. So like I said, about that 7 or 8 year mark, I'd been in practice for that long, kind of, like I said, turning my wheels. And I said, I'm revamping the whole thing. Like the image of our practice needs to represent what I feel inside and also kind of how I want patients to feel when they come and meet me. And we sit down and have a conversation in my environment that they feel is like this genuine place that's so different that it's easy for people to trust, it's to trust somebody that has that nature. And so it's been a tough challenge. I have a lot of people that I teach and a lot of people that come in and shadow me. I have people almost every week that come in and shadow the practice. My staff's like, yeah, we like it because they bring in donuts and free stuff, for us. But man, they're always like roaming around the office and hanging out. But I love it because they do see how much work is really involved. But I always tell them, I said, this was not built in a day. You can't put millions of dollars into a practice and make it look a certain way and then run it in this genuine way. It just doesn't work. And so it's with anything, it's like when Christian, you teach, you talk about digital smile design and technology and photography and all this stuff. I can listen to a lecture for you for 2 days and then I'm super inspired and I go, I am going to do this. I'm going to be like that guy because I've done it. I've gone to your stuff and I've said, I'm going to do that. And I come back and I go, wait a second, like that was just a little bit of a taste. I need so much more education. I need so much more help. I need like these communities to help me out. And without furthering and building on that, like I said, you're not going to get it in a day. And so that's one of the frustrating, instant gratification is such a thing. And so
Yeah, that's the important topic here is like it takes a long time to build something great.
You mentioned a couple of times the importance of finding who you are, right? It sounds pretty obvious, but we know that this comes with maturity, and many times we doubt ourselves. Many times we think that we thought we knew, but we don't. And I see people that even with age, they are in trouble because they lost inside, right? They don't know exactly who they are and so on. What are the things, and as I heard you mentioning this a few times, I see that you value that, and you probably value the journey that you went through to find out better who you are, right? What are the things that you think you did that helped you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily what I've done. It's mainly what I've been through. Is that through life events, I call them life events rather than like tragedies or, like these bad things. Just I'll tell a story real quick. So what my best friend and I, we went to the University of Utah together, undergrad. We were, took all the same classes. I was pre-med, he was pre-dental. It wasn't until a periodontist actually spoke at a pre-dental society that I was like, I'm doing that. Like I want to be a periodontist, which is super rare to have, a 20-year-old kid decide to be a periodontist gum guy. But anyway, we went through all of undergrad together. We applied to dental schools together, got into Temple University together. So we went to dental school together. We said, you know what, we're going to be perio-pros together and we're going to have a practice together and we're going to do this. And we ended up going to the same residency together, bought houses next door to each other. Yeah, it's like this whole thing, right? And so it's like, oh man, like this is we were meant to be. Like we're going to tell the story of a lifetime, like of being like this and great speaker and just super charismatic guy. I was married with 3 daughters and he was single. And so it's like we had all the dynamics all taken care of, it was like ready to go. And anyway, through residency, we kind of did this, in residency. And so obviously we were neighbors and we were, he was Uncle Ben, to my kids and just great guy. But we kind of did like this little split. And it wasn't until like I graduated, I started my own practice. He stayed in Alabama, started a practice there as well, did his thing and did my thing. And it was a year in which he committed suicide. And so with that, it was a terrible, terrible deal, for a lot of people. And that's, and I think we probably maybe have all been in that realm of having people around us maybe that have done that. And with that, there was a ton of obvious, guilt. There was a ton of, depression and all this stuff while I was in practice and trying to be a father and all this stuff, but then throwing that into the mix. That taught me a lot in terms of how to handle situations, with being thrown just curveballs, and going, okay, I'm asking questions about why. You don't know, you just don't know what's going on in that person's life at that very time that maybe have happened. But, through stuff like that and, and I did go through a divorce, with my first spouse. And those were in the first, 5 to 7 years of being in practice, all this stuff.
Gosh.
And so there was a lot of life events that I wouldn't say had to happen, but did happen. And either you can take one road and go, woe is me, and like just keep doing what I'm doing and just hopefully, Or you go, okay, I'm going to learn from this and I'm going to seek out counsel and I'm going to seek out people that have maybe been through the same thing and then take this road. And obviously you can turn that into a positive really, really, really quickly.
I can imagine all the stuff that you went through, because my first 5 years of practice were fucking hard enough. And I didn't have any of that stuff.
Right.
And it shows so much of who you are by the mindset that you had, right? And that is such a powerful topic, is mindset. And you see this in high performers. Is it's not they're better. It's not that they worked harder necessarily. It's just that they had a different mindset. And you definitely had that mindset. Like, you went through two things that can cripple people, honestly, like for their life, the rest of their life. And you still were able to create a great life for yourself. I mean, that's
that when it took, like I said, it took a lot of stuff, to where, and during a lot of those times is that what's the easiest way to get rid of the bad feelings? You drown them out with substance abuse and alcohol, and a lot of this stuff can take over people really, really quick. And that's an easy route, right? It's an easy route. And we see it in our profession a lot. And I see it a lot now, to where I go to dinners and I intermingle with a lot of people in the Las Vegas community. And you see, people that aren't happy. And what's the first thing that's easy to do is just drown it out, numb it. And so, with a lot of that I tried to do in my life, and I was like, this is the answer, and obviously it's not. But it takes a lot of self-help. It takes a lot of, like I said, having people embrace you and getting in the circles of friends and getting in the circle of professionals to dig yourself out of those holes, to where now you can overcome those and use those as positives and look back at that and go, I can't believe that was the person I was, and how proud I am for being the person I am today. And then, like I said, and finding that genuine person out of that, a lot of those life events happened, and it brought a lot of kind of who Curry is today, which is I'm super grateful for.
There's some statistics between 10 and 19% of dentists and physicians struggle with substance abuse. It's almost double the national average.
And the thing is, people don't even realize that it is substance abuse. Like, I know when I was going through dental school and residency, I was just working, my habit every single day was work until 11 or 12, watch a show, have a glass of wine, have another glass of wine, fall asleep, and do it all over again. And then suddenly I'm drinking 14 glasses of wine a week. And I'm just considering it like that's just what you do during residency.
You're just relaxing after
I'm just relaxing,
work,
right?
Yeah.
But then how many bottles of wine are you having a year? Like, you're literally poisoning yourself.
You're making me worried. I glasses of wine every single day.
That was a long time ago.
I'm doing it today. Anymore. I'm doing it.
No, he's doing it today.
He's doing it now in my life.
Christian,
drinking 2 glasses of wine.
You got to get you some non-alcoholic wine.
I tried. Oh, disaster.
Curry, I want to ask you, we were kind of what Kyle was talking about before, those first 5 to 7 years of your practice. I know that when I talk to my dental friends from NYU, the idea of starting a practice is just so far from their minds. And we're like, I won't say it, but 5 years plus graduating from dental school. And I think it's really tough. So I think something that I would love for you to share is like those first 5 to 7 years. What did you go through on a professional level, and what were your learnings?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh my gosh, there's so many things that happened in those first couple of years. Starting, a practice, like literally I was in Alabama, starting a practice in Vegas. So I'm trying to do a lot of things, remotely, but hiring a team. So I hired an office manager that looked amazing on paper, had great references, fantastic. We start, the ground running, and the first couple months in practice, you obviously, when you're making zero, where all the money's going. It's pretty easy. Like, it's pretty easy to see what's coming out of the bank account every single month and what's going in. Like, literally, I'm doing an implant today. Okay, that's $2,500. That's going to be great. I can't wait to deposit that today. But about 3 months in, I started noticing like funds not hitting the bank account. And so this office manager was stealing from me. And like the first 3 months of practice, I go, if you're going to, first of all, come up with a better scheme than get some new grad that obviously, like, I'm on everything. Like, I'm doing payroll, I'm doing my own accounting, I'm doing my own, QuickBooks, I'm doing my, everything. I mean, it's like, so I saw pennies going in and out, super easy to find. And so what a learning experience to go, okay, like, as much as somebody looks amazing on paper and looks, and they obviously were fraudulent and stealing from me. And so that was and then have to fire that person. And then do I get, officials involved, and do I have lawsuits involved and all this stuff? And I was like, oh my gosh, like this thing is like, I'm learning hard knocks here, like real quick.
Wow, what an interesting. I wanted to say, I look at that for you as a little bit of a blessing, right? Because to get embezzled early in your career, especially when you don't have any money, that's kind of the best time, right? And I'm sure from then you have put in all the little stops to stop this from ever happening again, right?
Yeah, but even then, like you could put in, like you can implement everything in your right mind to stop that, right? And there's a lot of trust in the team members that we do have. And that was one of the things I put my guard up. I put my guard up for a long time. And I was like, man, and then my interaction with my team was strangulated a little bit to where I was like, man, like, okay, I need to let myself go a little bit and have a lot more trust. So it was another learning experience to going, I can't micromanage. I'm not going to micromanage my team. I'm going to let them learn and do and implement and do their tasks and fulfill their position in a way that is accustomed to what they want, how they want to do it. It may be different than what I want to do it, but there's a lot of trust in that. And I do it to this day where I go, look, like you have certain tasks. Here's your job. This is your position. We're super grateful to have you here. You're a very implemental part of our practice. You can do your job how you want to do it. I'm totally cool with that. If you want to come in early, you want to stay late, you want to, however you want to do your job, like I want you to do it. I'm not going to micromanage your job as long as the job is completed. We're both happy. Man, what an amazing thing. You're going to do things the way you want to do it. I'm super happy the way you're doing it because it's getting done. And it's like, again, it's part of this genuine nature. But a lot of that was where the guard was up early and I had to let those go. Again, just a lot of trust and situations like that to where, yeah, definitely took the benefit of that, of being, stepped on early.
Because I look at my experience with being extorted by a patient, being sued by a team member, being threatened to be sued by a patient, and I'm thankful for it now. During the time, it was horrible.
It's horrible.
But
yeah.
Now I did put my guard up at first, but I think that was good. I didn't have boundaries with people, and I needed to have boundaries. I needed to set better expectations. I needed to be better at communication. But I'm thankful now that I went through it because I kind of know some of the red flags. Like I didn't know what I didn't know. It was an unknown for me.
No, absolutely. Well, and I think that everybody goes through stuff like that, right? It may not be as extreme as having somebody steal from you or, or sue you or whatnot, but it could be, as simple as, a team member feeling wronged or, or upset or whatever. There's just a lot of stuff in practice and obviously we take a lot of things personally. I'm going, oh, it's my fault. Like, this is my fault. Well, it's not necessarily maybe your fault. And so with a lot of listening and interactive listening, I like to call that, I think that we can be better people that way. And so it's interesting, on little things, big things that really can mold you, not only as a person, but as a practice owner is huge, and business owner as well. So
having a successful practice, we know there's always things that can be improved. If you look at your practice today, what are the things that you think you still want to focus and improve?
That's a great question. Right now, our problem is that we're too busy. I call that it's such a
right. Champagne problem.
It's a dumb problem. It's a first world problem, right? And so right now, like we have scheduling issues, to where there's one of me. And so we're looking at hiring an associate. But again, it's like my guard is up going, I know who I am. Can I clone me and bring somebody in like me? It would be fantastic. That'd be great. I would let that happen tomorrow. But I've had associates come in and I'm going, oh my gosh, the way they talk to patients, I'm like, I would never have said that. I would never have talked to a general dentist that way. I can't believe that you would do. And so like the guard is up. So obviously I need to let the guards down and have an associate come in and help out with that. We have the room to do it. And that's what we've done. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we've done. And we still are booked out 4 months or 5 months. They still want to come. In fact, some of my we get reviews, on Google and Yelp and whatnot. Man, we had to wait 4 months or 5 months, but it sure was worth it. Or man, his prices are pretty expensive, but it was worth it, and I'm like, okay, those are the best reviews. Yeah, it's like fantastic.
That's like, it's giving scarcity and quality. I mean, those are like two amazing things in a business.
100%. And it's all based on experience. It's experience of exemplifying and throwing an image out there and actually, nailing it down and taking it from A to Z. And the patient walks in the door to the patient leaves, is that we have that down. I think that's really, really well done. But in terms of growth, and that's a great question, Christian, because there's stuff in practice. I think that the practice is going really, really well. And we have our schedules out, and I've tried like the virtual consultation thing. I'm going, man, if I could just do all surgery all day long and then just do virtual consultations after work, just that interpersonal, dialogue and things like that was lost. So we weren't turning over a lot of patients or scheduling patients for surgery, with that. And so I got away with that. But I'm okay with where things are within the practice. Now it's like all personal stuff, to where I go, I love where the practice is at, and I love team building, and I love team management, and we do little stuff, every single day. And every single day I go into my practice, I literally have a journal. In fact, it's over here. And I say, okay, today, what's going to make myself successful? Oh, it's interacting with this team member a little bit better today. Or this surgery is coming up. I want to document this surgery really, really well, So I write like 3 or 4 things down for the day. And if I can cross every single one of those off for the day, that truly is going to make myself successful for that day. I just go home and I'm like, hey, I nailed all 4 of those. It's like really good.
I'm seeing a theme with what we've talked about today is that you're very intentional. I think a lot of people think that success is an accident, right? Oh, you're just so lucky, right? You've been so intentional in hard times, in good times. I think that says a lot about your character, and it explains how you've been able to get to where you are, I think.
Yeah, I think you try to be, because who's going to bullshit anybody? You can't bullshit yourself.
Yeah, a lot of people do, though.
A lot of people do.
And they do. And have I bullshitted myself? A lot, and I've done that to myself, where I said, you are doing great right now, and I'm not. It's like, come on, like, Curry, you can do better than this. And in fact, even this year, in January, my 17-year-old, so I have 4 daughters. They're 20, 17, 14, and 5. My 5-year-old turned 5 yesterday. And my 17-year-old, senior in high school, looked at me right after New Year's and said, Dad, I just don't think you're meeting your full potential. And I was like, that's an incredibly brave young girl.
Yeah.
And then to step back from that and go, wait a second, like, I feel like I'm doing everything, right? I'm speaking at all the big conferences. I'm on main podiums. I have an institute that is super successful. I have study clubs that are successful. My practice is doing great. We partnered with a great, oral surgery group nationwide, and we're just have like all this good stuff going. And she goes, no, Dad, I just don't think you meet your full potential. And I go, okay, I'm stepping back from that, and I'm going, what an amazing, and then even my wife, my wife goes, I think she's right. It's like, what are you going to do to like reach that potential? And it's, it really can be, right? And so it's just amazing there are certain people in your life, and a lot of them are your kids that look up to you, and they know you, you're not bullshitting anybody. And so if my 17-year-old goes, yeah, I think you can do a little bit better, then that's a big swift kick in the pants, and I'm going to listen to that. And so
what was your conclusion?
Yeah, well, that's like, in terms of like health and mental health, and doubling up on meeting, like I said, with therapists, and talking differently, and listening differently, and being more present. It's like, here I am, like, when my children are in my presence and I'm working on stuff, or I'm on my phone, and now it's phone goes away. You are 100% who I want to be with. And I want to make it known that my time is your time now. Because we're all busy, and it's like, we're all busy, but there are people on the other side that deserve our attention. And it's not the first time where my wife goes, look at the attention you give, like, your patients. Like, I would love that same interaction, or how you talk to a certain, I would love for you to talk to me that way. It's like, so it's like these little things, that we can be better at. And obviously I don't have all the answers, I'm super into yoga now, Christian. I don't know if that's helping.
So Curry, I want to dive into that. So as someone who has put off family for a long time, because I just didn't think I could do both, I'm curious, you did both at the same time. What did that personal sacrifice look like? And if you were to give yourself one brutally honest piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Man, I love my kids so much. I had kids super early in my career. I was in school, like literally in residency, and my oldest was in dental school. And so would I have done that differently and maybe held up a little bit? Now I look back on that and going, maybe that would have, been probably a wise choice. I did go through a divorce, and, and both of our careers went we got married very young, and we both kind of went like this too. And she's an author, very successful author, super proud of her. And we share children together, and we're in like this business relationship together. But like, we just went like this, and we had a realization with that. We were going, man, like, this is not working out. So like, life choices in terms of when you get married, when you have kids, I wish there was an answer to all that, and I see examples of people that do it later, some people that do it earlier, and their success in all of that. And so it's tough to say, but like, in terms of sacrifice, yeah, I think that, you got to put in the work, you got to put in the effort, especially if you do have your own practice, that there is going to be some sacrifice with family, I think, early on. And I think if you make that known, and all of you have businesses outside of dentistry, or, within the realms of dentistry without actually sitting in an office, that you sacrifice a lot of time now to hopefully you can then sit back and go, okay, let's reap the benefits of all of our hard work. So I think, but if the communication is there at the get-go, you can do that really, really well. And going, okay, honey, like, there's going to be long hours. There's going to be a lot of work and a lot of effort to get this off the ground. And just resentments and all this stuff we can put on the wayside and just be as a team. I think that I probably didn't do that very well in my first relationship. But yeah, I think there's hard work is a big thing.
I love what you said there, Curry. I want to expand on that. You talked about, first of all, you worked on your listening, you worked on your presence, you worked on your communication, and setting expectations. Setting expectations is something that dentists are very bad at with patients and with family. Like you said, there were times in your life where you needed to grind, when you first started your business, maybe the first few years, but you knew that was the case. And I don't know if you did it now, or you would definitely do it now, but you would say, hey, honey, the next year is going to be crazy. Like, I apologize in advance. I'm not going to be as available. I'm not going to be here as much. I really have to grind. Knowing that there's going to be an end to that, instead of just grinding and your spouse saying, where the fuck are you? I need you. Wait, I thought you were going to be here. Why aren't you home yet? That creates a lot of resentment. And so I'm very big on setting the expectation ahead of time, especially with patients, but even with family too. Setting expectation with everybody at the beginning, and even setting a low expectation. So hopefully you hit it and they think you're amazing, right?
Right.
I think a lot of dentists just think of setting expectations with patients. One of the big things is setting it with your family.
Just doing it a lot is one thing I've realized. I realized both, with patients, for me, it's with my team, and then in my personal life, you can't just do it once is what I've realized. You've got to repeat it over and over and over again, because people need that. They need to know what's going to happen. So I've just realized, part of being a really good communicator is repetition.
I started a whole course just on how to set expectations with patients because I was so bad at it. And then I finally learned it, and I realized that other dentists didn't really know how to do it. And so much of that is every time they come in, like my friend Martin Mendelsohn, he always talked about when he was in practice, he had a denture list. Because dentures take 6 appointments, right? And the patients come in the first day and they say, am I getting my denture today? And he had a denture list where every week they see, okay, week 1, we're doing initial impression. Okay, appointment 2, we're doing final impression. Appointment 3, we're going to do wax rims. Appointment 4. And so every time they came in, even though you went over it the first time, every time it's like, hey, Mrs. Jones, welcome. Remember, today we're doing the wax rims. Okay, sounds good. And then you even add in some extra steps that you may not need, like second tooth try-in or bite adjustment, and setting that expectation. Then the patient knows, oh, today I'm coming in, I'm doing tooth try-in. I know I'm not getting it today. And then everybody knows what's going on, and there's so much less stress.
No, totally. Well, even in the light side group, we talked about corrective surgeries, or revisions. And now, we set the expectations early on going, this is going to be a ridge augmentation to replace this tooth. We're also putting on here a revision procedure in case we need to do anything on top of that. There's also extra gum graft, whatever we have to do, to set expectations. But I think a lot of that, we can take that into our personal lives as well. Right. So we could set the expectations and then also follow that up going, oh, by the way, there might be stuff added to this that, as an unforeseen, and just right now, it's like a big thing between my wife and I. We have a family calendar, and that family calendar is so key because we got all the kids stuff, and we got all the business stuff, and we got study club stuff, and we got this podcast was on, the whole thing is So the expectations were like, oh yeah, my husband's not going to be available Friday morning. It's already on the calendar. But then she goes, hey, are you going to be done to pick up Parker from school at 12 o'clock? I said, just to let you know, this may go over. I'm not sure, how long it's going to go. So there was my revision already, like added it in there, so
That's perfect.
we can do that in our daily lives all the time.
I was at a CE course the other day and my wife asked me, when are you going to be home? And I didn't say when I was going to be home. I said, it's supposed to end at 5, right? So it's supposed to end at 5. That may go over. I may run into a friend that wants to chat. I may talk to someone here that's at a company. I was there with my dad, so maybe my dad wants to do something. And I just said, I'll let you know when I leave. And again, I'm not going to say I'm going to be home at 6, because then when I'm not home at 6, she said, well, I thought you were going to be home at 6. So I had dinner ready and I had the kids, they wanted to see you. And, and then there's that miscommunication. Christian, I see you've been chomping at the bit to say something.
No. I'm very bad at it. I'm very bad, and it drives me crazy. This is so important. This is something that my father was always horrible at it. Drive my mother crazy. Always saying yes to everything. It's the wanting to please everybody at the moment now, right? And being nice to the person now, and not setting the you cannot imagine the amount of stress and trouble that I get still today because of that. I'm working very hard on it with my wife. I'm trying because it drives my wife insane as well. And I'm just glad you guys are mentioning it because I need to work on it.
I mean, Izzy and I have, just like you, Curry, we have a calendar with everything in it. Like it takes so much work. It took us like 3 years. Like on Sundays, we have a reset. We say, how was last week? What could we have done better? Like, what did we need to put in the calendar? And especially because he and I travel a lot. We're traveling like multiple times a month, visiting our partners all over. And so there's so much that has to be in there. And what we've learned is it just takes like constant improvement of like, what can we do better this week? And instead of looking in the past, like, well, that was bad, right? It's what can we do better? What can we learn from so that tomorrow is better? That's what kind of flipped the switch for us.
Yeah, it's being intentional. When I really, now in my Lightside Academy, I said the whole course is about expectations, communication, and boundaries. I was falling asleep one day and I had this idea, oh my God, the reason why I had burnout was expectations, boundaries, and communications. And so you can relate kind of everything in dentistry to those things. And then after I was teaching in dentistry, I said, oh my God, this is not just in dentistry, this is in life.
Yeah.
The reason why I had stress was expectations, communication, and boundaries.
That's why people say that it's easier to be single, and some people don't want to face the challenge of being in a relationship is because of these
things.
It
is easier.
It is easier.
It's easier because you don't need to improve yourself. You don't need to work on it.
Exactly.
You said something very, very key is that you guys have a relationship to where you can communicate and you can go, okay, what can we do better? That's a very tough discussion to have sometimes is going, man, I probably wasn't my best. What can I do better for you? And I do this in my practice too, to where at the end of the week, I go, hey, just get the whole team together and I go, what can I have done better to just help either one of you individually or as a team? What could we have done better? And me specifically, like I want to be as coachable as possible too, even being the leader of the group. What can I do better? And have this open communication with each other and not be afraid to go, here's a little criticism, this is something you could do better, but then take that with love and then just better yourself because of it. But you have to have the relationship there, as a foundation to even have those conversations. And so
it's such a great quality of a leader. Some of the best leaders that I have known, one of the most amazing qualities is when they're giving criticism, they always open the door for criticism on themselves.
You have to.
It's huge.
Yeah. And they say, like one thing is when you're explaining how to do something to somebody, let's say you have a new assistant in your practice, when you explain it to them, and again, I learned this from my friend Martin Mendelsohn, he says, as I'm explaining this to you, my job is to make sure I'm explaining it correctly. So if I'm not communicating correctly in this, I would encourage you and leave the door open, and I allow you to feel safe to criticize me in how I'm telling you how to do this.
100%.
Christian, before we wrap, I want to mention, because I know we're almost at time, there was a key moment for me, both professionally and personally, where I realized when things weren't going right, why weren't they going right? And Kyle, just like how you said, you had these three things. You had this aha moment. For me, it was two. And one was that when I was arguing with someone, it's because we were looking into the past. And the second reason we were arguing is because we were pointing out what the other person was doing, personally or professionally, instead of what we were doing and what we could do better. So a big value I have, both personally and professionally, I probably say this 2 or 3 times a day. Today is the first day of the rest of our lives. If it happened yesterday, I don't care. What can we do today? And then always talking from the I perspective as opposed to you. It's a game changer. If we hear anyone say like, you did this, that's wrong. It's what could I have done better? And what was my expectation and what I need?
Yeah, there's such a difference in seeing true ownership, right? When there's true ownership in anything, you could really see the difference in that person's, like I said, intentions of where they want things to go. And so, yeah, life is crazy. Yeah, it's super fun.
Curry, where can people find you? You have a practice, you have an institute, you're speaking. Where can people find you?
Man, you can go to redrockinstitute.com for a lot of stuff that's coming up within the Institute. We have a lot of, again, instructors and courses that come through the Institute that I'm not even teaching. I just host. Being in Las Vegas, it's an easy place to come hang out. Christian, we'd love to have you. Yeah, the line is thrown if you want to come out and hang out. But it's great. It's a 30-seat institute, live surgical room. I teach a lot of full arch, hard tissue, soft tissue courses with David Wong. He's a periodontist out of Tulsa. He would be great on here as well. Super well-spoken, super, super nice guy. I have a lot of courses from, Vanessa from Brazil's coming out, doing some soft tissue grafting and just all sorts of stuff, in Vegas. And so also Instagram, be a friend on Instagram. That's how a lot of us have got to know each other. And so
I just started
Dr. Curry Levitt.
I just started following you.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to take this hour to talk about non-clinical stuff. I thought this was really great. So Curry, thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to another conversation.
Absolutely. I would love to come on anytime.
Pleasure.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Get the f*** up out the chair.